but I'm very excited to say hello to our next guest joining us in studio. He was just named the USBA Promoter of the Year. He has a big show coming up on DAZN on Thursday, headlined by Jermaine Franklin. He's one of the best American promoters in combat sports right now. He is the pride of Brooklyn, Dmitry Salita.
Thank you.
What's up, Dmitry? How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you, my friend. Please.
I feel like I'm getting back in the ring.
This is it?
With that kind of introduction.
Yes. Long time coming. So great to have you. Oh my God, you would whoop my ass. It's so great to have you here.
It's great to be on.
We've been talking for a while and very excited about all the things that you are doing. And so this is a great honor for us. I was talking to a friend of mine, John Beer, yesterday. I was like, Dmitry Salita in studio. He and I went to the premiere of your documentary, Orthodox Stance, in 2000. Oh gosh, when did it come out? Maybe 6 or 7. And you were such an inspiration for us to see what you're doing. What a great documentary that is. How can people watch that now? Is it available on any platform? Because I was looking for it yesterday on YouTube and stuff, and I couldn't find it.
It's not available.
Why?
Shout out to Jason Hutt, who's the filmmaker of that documentary. We have to find a streaming deal for it.
Okay. Do you own it, or does
I do own it. Yeah,
okay.
we own it together, but we're flexible to make a deal.
Okay.
It was a great documentary. I'm very grateful that that I got a chance for someone to document such a significant part of my life for so many years. I mean, and he could have made 6 different documentaries because he has so much footage, and Mayweather and Bob Arum and Lou DiBella.
Oh,
and
it's amazing.
I mean, in the most intimate, stages of a boxer's career. Really, really grateful, and and very nice of you to remember.
It's one of my favorite combat sports documentaries, and I've seen so many of them. Maybe now that you have this deal with DAZN, we could get it on there. What do you think?
That's a great idea.
Should I call up my friends at DAZN?
You should let them know.
Okay. Congrats on that deal.
Thank you.
Big Time Boxing, right?
Big Time Boxing USA.
Big Time Boxing USA. Important to distinguish that. You have another show on Thursday.
Yes.
By the way, why Thursday? Why do you pick Thursday?
It's a weeknight show. DAZN has a lot of offerings, not only on Saturdays and Fridays, but also throughout the week. And I'm very grateful that we were able to come to this deal. Actually, the first show was on Tuesday, but going forward is going to be on Thursdays. And this is going to be our 3rd event. I want to list just the level of fighters that we had on the first 2 shows and coming up on May 23rd. On the February 20th show, we had Jarrell Holmes, who's the USBA champion, one of the best junior middleweights in the world. Ali Ismailov in the co-main event, one of the best blue chip light heavyweight world-rated contenders. Joseph Hicks, US Olympic team captain, was on the undercard. And Devell Smith, many believe that he's the next Tommy Hearn from the Kronk Boxing Gym in Detroit. On the March 20th show, we had Vladimir Shishkin, who's the official IBF #2 contender at super middleweight. Possibly will fight for that title, depending on what happens with William Skull and Canelo. Shogjikhan Ergashev, one of the biggest punchers in the sport of boxing, junior welterweight, world-rated. Gave a great fight to Sabriel Matias, had an injury that impacted him, and the fight, his corner stopped the fight because his legs swelled up. And Juan Correa, 2-time Olympian, also world-rated light heavyweight. And coming up on May 23rd, world-rated Jermaine Franklin will be in the main event. Joshua Pagan, U.S. national champion, a 9-0, fighting a 13-0 fighter. And Jarrell Holmes and Ali Akhmedov, another highly touted super middleweight. So lots of talent from the state of Michigan, from the United States, and from all over the world in competitive fights. It's a combination of showbox and Tuesday night fights.
Yeah, I love that. Old school fans will know about that. And the talent is just as good in the booth. You've got Al Bernstein.
Yes.
Raul Marquez, Corey Erdman, fellow Canadian. You've given Al Bernstein a home after the demise of Showtime Sports, which I love as well. Well done.
Thank you. It's a great team. I believe it's one of the best teams in sports. In this renaissance age of boxing, when things are changing, and I'm a fan of the sport. I grew up in Starrett City Boxing Club in 1995. Remember rushing home to watch Boxing After Dark, HBO Championship Boxing. And it's very important the way what's happening in the ring is presented to you. So, like folks like Raul Marquez, who's a former world champion, and I actually fought on his undercards when I was coming up, and obviously Al Bernstein and Corey Erdman, the way they present the stories and the way they describe the action is so important for the sport of boxing to grow and for the fight fans to get the nitty-gritty of what goes on in the ring.
So you just refer to it as a renaissance right now that boxing is enjoying.
Yes.
And I agree wholeheartedly, but from your sort of expert perspective, why do you think that there's a renaissance right now?
Well, HBO is out of the game, Showtime is out of the game, and there's only 2 U.S. broadcasters, DAZN, ESPN, and now Amazon.
Maybe Netflix too.
Maybe Netflix too,
Right,
hopefully.
right.
Yes, I really believe that there will be many others, or maybe not many, but a significant amount of others that are strong and they'll be able to elevate the sport. And really, I mean, this incredible fight that happened over the weekend, the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, the fact that Riyadh season and Saudis and His Excellency Mr. Turkey Al Sheikh was on your show last week that I watched, is coming in to fill this hole and to make these big fights, to make people work together, which is so important. And seems that the promotion that they're doing, the storytelling, the pictures, the posters is really incredible. And I really believe that it comes at the right time.
Are you worried that this is not sustainable? They're paying a lot of money for these events, right? The fighters get a lot of money, the production. Are you worried that this will only last a couple of years?
You know, if you look at the sport of boxing, every 5 to 10 years there's these bumps which sustains the sport, and then either stays or doesn't stay. But seems to be that that they're smart people and they know what they're doing, and I do believe that it'll raise the earning potential of fighters and the sport of boxing to the next level. And when new broadcasters come in, like Netflix or others, you know, there'll be a higher milestone set to make the biggest and the best fights. And it's good for the sport of boxing.
You've had a couple of fighters on their cards, right? Jarrell Miller, Otto Wallin.
Yes.
So how would you describe one thing that I'm liking about what they're doing is they're breaking the barriers between the promoters, right? That Day of Reckoning card, I think, had 11
Yes.
promoters. What is your working relationship with them like?
Great. I mean, I've, didn't know what to expect on that first December 23rd trip to Saudi.
Did you go there?
I did go there.
Okay.
Spent a week there. Great time. A great hospitality. And it was great boxing, and I was very grateful and honored to be a part of it. Did
you ever think that something like this, like Eddie and Frank up there, all these promoters up there?
So I'm not from England. So
Sure.
When I went to the press conference in London, they're like, "Oh my God, Eddie and Frank working together." So seems to be that it's like the Soviet Union and America coming together in 1960.
Yeah.
So which is great. And I believe that, one of my kind of company's building blocks is to be inclusive, not exclusive.
Yes.
And it's very important for promoters to work together to make the biggest and the best fights. And for the growth of the sport of boxing, that needs to happen, and it needs to be continuous. And we cannot stay in our own dome of a network and not make the big fights, because the fighters' careers are very finite. And when you talk about a fight and it doesn't happen, boxing fans get turned off. They go watch basketball or football or basketball, or
MMA.
Or MMA. That's right. And in MMA, in the UFC, they've done a great job of the best fighting the best consistently. And effort is more important than winning or losing.
Right. They've done a great job in large part because they have a stranglehold over it, right? Like the thought of working with other promoters, A, is not really a thing because there's such a gap between them and the others, and B, they don't really entertain it, so it's completely different than boxing. You also have, so Jarrell Miller is going to be on this August 3rd card in LA. What is the state of your relationship with Jarrell? Because I remember at that press conference before the last fight, he had some not very nice things to say, which I think caught you off guard a little bit to a degree. Yes.
So I didn't even hear it because I was sitting at the podium, and then when I got off the thing, people from his team and everybody was sending me texts. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, sorry about what? and then I heard it, and I was obviously very disappointed. After the fight with Daniel Dubois, Jarrell came to me and gave me a hug, and we had a nice chat, and seemed to have worked things out. Then I came back to America. Fortunately, Jarrell had that incident with the car.
Yeah.
Spoke to his family, did our best to help out that situation. And fight with Andy Ruiz is a great fight. Kind of right all the wrongs of many years ago, and kind of, I think it's a fight that has a lot of significant amount of storylines to it. So, I don't control what the fighters say. Certainly Jarrell has a very great personality, which is one of the things that attracted me to him in the beginning. He's actually the first fighter that I signed is Jarrell Miller in
2011, is it?
2011, he fought on my shows. I didn't want to sign him. Well, I told him that I can't sign you because I don't have the ability to promote you. So I tried to introduce him to Golden Boy and Lou DeBell and all different people, and for some reason, you know, it didn't click. And then he came to me a couple of years later when I was kind of established, and my first press release on him was the best American heavyweight in the likes of Riddick Bowe and Mike Tyson from Brooklyn, New York. And it was a couple of years after the Barclays Center and Brooklyn boxing was coming up. And it took off. And he progressed well. And finally, the fight with Anthony Joshua at Madison Square Garden. Didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. But I'm very glad that we worked together to get him from the beginning of his career, fighting at club shows, to fight at Madison Square Garden for the undisputed heavyweight unified.
But are you okay now?
Are we okay now? It depends on the day. I'm always okay. But
yes, but I mean, like the stuff he was saying about you was very unsavory, right? I mean, he's talking about you stealing money from him and stuff like that. That's these at times like these are maybe like irreparable accusations,
right? Of course.
Right?
And it's great that you bring this up. So as Jarrell was progressing through his career, different promoters, when I still wasn't, when I was starting out as a promoter, different promoters wanted him and he wanted to be with them, but we had a contract. And throughout that process, Jarrell retained some of the best legal counsel in the industry, and either they refuted themselves or they couldn't help him. And the New York State judge settled the case, and it's ordered with the New York State court. And the judgment that he talked about is not me saying it, it's the court saying it. We have a co-promotional agreement. Every cent and every dollar that comes in, he knows about. If I took 1 cent, he would not be under contract to me. So it's absolutely false and damaging, and it's not true. It's absolutely not true. And but what can you do?
Well, what about Jermaine Franklin? How are you with him? Obviously, he's on this show.
He's fighting May 23rd.
Yes.
Jermaine is a guy from Saginaw, Michigan, that I've noticed maybe 4 or 5 years ago. A very talented guy, national Golden Gloves champion. Great fight against Dillian White that I feel he won. And then we got him a fight against Anthony Joshua. So he's back in the ring, and I think we're back in the mix for big fights with an impressive victory.
You don't live in Detroit, do you?
I do. I live in Michigan.
You do live there now.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have now moved there, and you have decided to try to revive that area.
Yeah, so after I fought Amir Khan, Jimmy O, who was my trainer, my mentor, called Emmanuel Stewart and said, Emmanuel, he needs your help. And I know Emmanuel, obviously, from amateur boxing when I fought on HBO. So he said, Dmitry, come on down to the Kronk Gym. It was on Warren Avenue in Dearborn. And I came down to the Kronk, trained with him for a couple of weeks. And he said, Dmitry, I got to go to camp. Here's Sugar Hill. He does the same stuff I do, train with Sugar. So that's how that relationship started. And I saw so much talent in that gym coming from Starrett City Boxing Club, and also, growing up with Louis Colasso, Danny Jacobs, Travis Sims, Curtis Stevens, Saddam Ali, the list goes on, just Zab Judah.
Right.
Just so being able to recognize so much talent, but there was no Madison Square Garden and there were no bigger fights. So, then when I started to promote, my thoughts started to sparkle up, and Sugar has been very encouraging. And then Tyson Fury, when he was like 10-0, came to the Kronk Gym, and he was like, now you're not the only white guy in the gym. That got some rhythm, man.
I was in Las Vegas, I think it was 2009, and I was covering an event, and there was a press conference, and I ran to my room, and I found a stream, I will be honest, because our guy Dmitry Salita was fighting Amir Khan in England. And
that was tough.
This was the Super Bowl for us,
Yes.
Obviously, I bring it up, it didn't go your way.
Yes.
When you think back on it, are there any fond memories, or is it just like a situation in your life that you just want to forget, a nightmare, if you will?
I started training at Starrett City Boxing Club, which was located in a garage, in a parking garage in inner city Brooklyn, New York, in the basement of a parking garage, with no running water, no bathroom, no heat, no air conditioning. And I made it to, I had a dream to fight for that world title, and I did whatever I can. It didn't go my way. Certainly, after that, you have lots of doubts and different spiders climb into your mind, and there's bitterness. But, it led to my career as a promoter, really, that loss. And I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. You know, I wasn't as good as the elite guys, but I was good enough to experience a lot of the things that that most people in my position now do not experience. And I'm very grateful for those memories. And I see, you know, Amir now, and we're friendly.
Okay.
And it is what it is. What can you do?
There's no hard feelings.
There's no hard feelings. No, he did what he had to do.
Yeah.
How can there be any hard feelings?
Sure, sure. And by the way, if you could just move the bottle, I don't want it to cover
Sorry.
your face.
Oh, sorry.
No, just off to the side because it was right in the middle. You know, I want people to see it. There you are back as a youngster with Frank Warren.
Yes, you know what? It's so meaningful to me to now when we did the show in Riyadh. Well, actually, first we had Otto Wade fight Tyson Fury.
Yes.
And I
What a
saw
fight
Frank
that was.
Warren. Yeah, that was a great fight.
Yeah.
And it was I'm a fan of the sport. I love the sport of boxing. And to now establish relationships with these different people who I had as a fighter is so different and so amazing to me.
Yeah.
And interesting.
Who is the best promoter in boxing right now, in your opinion?
The best promoter in boxing and maybe of all time is Baumgardner.
Okay, still to this day, you believe?
Well,
Right now, I don't mean all time. I mean right this moment.
you're putting me on the spot a little bit.
No,
It's okay. You know, so there are several number ones.
Okay.
People say like, I'm number one. I think there are several number ones, and it's a good thing. So, I mean, Bob is 93.
92, 93. Yeah, I still can't believe he travels this much.
Unbelievable. 92, 93, and obviously age does what it does, but based, and my first promoter, so I got a chance to see as a fighter, and I always peeked behind the door to see what was going on.
So you always kind of knew you wanted to do this?
No, I mean, maybe 4 or 5 years into my career,
Okay.
but I always wanted to ask questions. I just loved boxing since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And read books and wanted to know just all the different things from matchmaking to publicity to all kinds of stuff. So, you know, Bob and Don King created modern boxing in a way, the business of modern boxing. And I think that Aram created a system where he can be old and not be as involved, but the business still goes on because there's structure, there's systems in place, and he can relax and do what he does, or not do anything, you know. And I think that Don was a great personality, bigger than Bob as an individual, but I think that as a business did not set up those kind of systems that Aram did. But two of those guys are the greatest promoters in the sport of boxing.
Okay.
I like to use the phrase "only in America," and I use it often. It applies to me because I'm an immigrant from the Ukraine, Soviet Union, so I love the phrase "only in America." So who's the best promoter in the sport today? I think there are several. I mean, you have to give a lot of credit to Matchroom and to Eddie Hearn.
Yeah. A lot of people don't like, especially here in America, they don't like that he comes here.
So one of the reasons why I bring up Eddie, his first 2 shows in the United States, we promoted with him on HBO before DAZN. Also involves Jarrell. I had a choice to make. Which way do I take Jarrell once he became really highly road rated? Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua? And I felt that Anthony Joshua was the more winnable, more appropriate road. And I called Peter Nelson, that time president of HBO, and he said, either team up with Eddie Hearn, who's going to be coming here, or Golden Boy. And Eddie had Anthony Joshua, and that's how that relationship started.
Okay. So you have a good working relationship with him.
Yeah, we've done many fights together. And again, we co-promoted those first 2 events at Long Island Coliseum and the Barclays Center. Also great experience and a great company. And Frank Smith, who's his right-hand man, great guy. A lot of respect for him.
I love all the personalities. Oh, go ahead.
I also want to say that from working this December 23rd show, although they're only in England, I would say that Frank Warren and his son George are great operators as well, and top-of-the-line promoters. And I don't know about people's differences and different beefs. I'm just saying.
Are there any promoters that you won't work with right now?
I think that you cannot, whatever personal feelings you may have, you cannot say that I'm not going to work with anybody.
Right.
Because if your fighter is in position to fight their fighter, you have to make those fights for the sport of boxing and for the fighters, because their careers are finite, and you have to find a way to make things work. Whether I like you or I don't like you, or you like me or you don't like me, we have to find ways to work. And Don and Bob are great examples. They hated each other sometimes, and they also drove each other to the next level. but they always found ways to make the big fights. I just read a great book called Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet-David, right?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
And, it talked about choosing competition that drives you.
Right.
And Bob and Don drove each other, and they were each other's enemies, but they made boxing grow. And, so I obviously want to be on top of the boxing game and contribute to the sport, but it's important that the people that are in this place find ways to work together and to make the fights happen. So important for the sport of boxing. And seems to be that that the Saudis are making people that don't like to sometimes sit at the table come together and work, which is great.
So I'm assuming you watched the fight on Saturday.
Yes.
After Shabbat.
Yes.
Right. And so what a scene! What a fight!
But I was looking forward to it.
My God!
Last
Yes.
couple hours. Yeah.
It was incredible. First of all, do you agree with the decision? Do you agree with Usyk winning?
I think it was a close fight. Could have gone either way. Great performance by both fighters. Elevated the sport of boxing. In what sport can there be such drama as a championship heavyweight fight? I mean, incredible heart and skill by, first of all, by Usyk saying a prayer in the corner, and by Tyson surviving that barrage. Really incredible. So could have been a draw. Could have gone either way. Usyk winning, I'm okay with. I think it's, certainly so much. It's so great on a, just a political and a sports interest, in a sports interest way, coming from the Ukraine and having this redeeming victory. I think it's great for the sport of boxing. And there's few sports, if any, that can drive that kind of passion.
How do you feel about that sequence in the 9th round? Should the referee have not stepped in? Was he robbed? Some people are saying Usyk was robbed of a potential knockout.
Well, you can't say he was robbed because Tyson Fury came back and probably won.
Sure, but it looked like he was that the ropes.
He could have stopped him.
Yeah.
He could have stopped it, and there would be no, it could have been justified, but he didn't, and that was justified as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, certain referees, through experience, make the right calls, and I think that he made the right call.
Okay. We were debating earlier. I think Usyk is the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world now, considering what he's done now at heavyweight and cruiserweight. It's, to me, Usyk, Crawford in a way, and it feels like every time one of them fights, he goes up. But now I feel like it's Usyk because of what he just did. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. And coming up from cruiserweight and doing it to one of the greatest heavyweights of all time in Tyson Fury, I think is incredible. I do want to say that I saw a post today on ESPN Knockout about 4 belt champions, Inoue, Crawford, and Usyk, and Claressa Shields was not on that list, but she absolutely deserves to be on that list. She had 4 belts and 160, 154, and then 160 again. So please make that.
Please
wrong,
correct
right.
it.
Yes.
Is it possible they were just talking about male fighters, or was it?
I don't know.
They didn't distinguish
I don't know
that.
what they were talking about it, but someone that's as great as Claressa needs to be included in those conversations.
1,000%.
And and for purposes of equality and raising up women's boxing, Claressa and other champions who have the credentials should be included in those conversations because
I agree.
Because if they don't, it isolates women's boxing and degrades it and doesn't elevate it to where it needs to go.
My guy in the back over there, New York Rick, is the biggest Claressa Shields fan.
My guy.
We debate all the time. I think Katie Taylor is the greatest women's boxer of all time. I say this to your face. To your face. I don't want to hide behind my thing. The fight against Amanda Serrano is one of the greatest that I've ever seen.
Did you watch Claressa versus Marshall?
I did. I think Claressa is a victim of this, and it's not her fault. I think just there aren't enough people who are good enough to give her a test to show her true, talent. There was a fighter in the world of UFC named Demetrius Johnson. I thought I had a picture of him somewhere.
Sure.
Mighty Mouse. And he was so much better than everyone that people took his talent for granted.
Roy Jones. Let's go to boxing terms.
Sure. You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand.
Katie's a little bit more tested. I know she lost.
I love Katie Taylor. She's a great person, a great champion. Nowhere close to Claressa Shields.
That's fair.
With all due respect.
Yeah.
Claressa is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. 2-time Olympic gold medalist. I don't think did Katie win? I don't think she won.
No, just one.
She won a gold medal.
Yeah,
right?
but not 2. Yeah.
Yeah. 2-time Olympic gold medalist. First woman to ever fight as the main event on cable network television, which was on Showtime. First fight together. And after that, Katie Taylor and Serrano and other great women fighters started fighting on DAZN, on ESPN, on Showtime. on HBO. But it is Claressa, through her story, through her incredible life story, coming up from Flint, Michigan, and believing in women's boxing before it was a real business, and becoming, I think, the greatest woman of all time. Katie Taylor, great fighter, sometimes wins, sometimes struggles. I'm pleased not to take anything away from
100%,
Katie.
100%. It's a fun debate.
Claressa is a dominant fighter. She beat Christina Hammer, who was a dominant middleweight champion. She would look like Roy Jones. She beat Savannah Marshall, who's a very good fighter, but she beat her in a very convincing way. And all the ones that stepped up, they were very good. Claressa just dismantled them.
Does she have her next fight yet?
She does have her next fight, almost done.
Okay.
It's going to be another historic, big news.
When you say historic, what do you mean by that?
Well, Claressa is a world champion, like Lomachenko, in 3 divisions. She accomplished it faster than any man or woman in the sport. And we're going to do something big.
Okay. What does big mean? Well, no better place than here to break the news. Can you break it now? You're the man. It's your show, right?
It is my show, but we're still working. There's many different
people
involved. I will say that she's going to make her story.
Okay.
And do something that's never been done before once again.
Okay,
against another significant champion in a big way.
Okay, so a new weight class.
In a big place.
In a big place. Golly, there's a lot of bigs there.
And you're invited.
Oh, thank you. And when is this going to be?
It's going to be
sometime in the future?
Sometime in the future, but in the very near future.
Near future?
In a not too distant future.
Like summertime?
Yes.
Interesting. Possible on the August 3rd card? No.
Not on August 3rd.
Okay. Will it be will you be co-promoting it?
I will be promoting it.
Promoting, okay, no one else.
I mean, the promoter of the champion.
Sure.
But it's our event.
Got it, okay.
Yes.
In America?
In America.
Michigan.
Okay.
Little Caesars? What a great venue that is.
It's such a great venue.
It's amazing.
It is likely to be a Little Caesars.
Oh, I like that, okay.
But which is a great venue. And, I would love for Riyadh Season to come to Detroit.
Is that possible?
Why not? I mean, they're doing one in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Detroit is one of the hometowns of boxing.
Of course.
Just developed and born so many champions. Mayweather, Hearns, Joe Louis, Claressa Shields, Tommy Hearns, Emmanuel Stewart, Tyson Fury, Sugar Hill, Vladimir Klitschko. So many people came. Michael Moore. I mean,
Jermaine Franklin.
There you go. That's right.
Who's headlining this Thursday?
Big time.
Okay, so that is very. How do you find? How do you feel? I should say about her doing MMA. I have some thoughts on this.
Sure.
I'm curious what you think about it.
Sure.
When I'm talking about Claressa, of course.
Yeah. So Claressa's our MMA partner is the PFL.
Yeah.
They're great partners, and I love working with them and have all praise for what they're doing with Claressa. Claressa always wanted to be a 2-sport star, and she just didn't know when to pull the trigger. When COVID came, it was a bit of a challenging time. I actually want to talk about it separately, about what happened during COVID to the boxing industry. But it was a challenging time, and it was the right time for her to strike. And we didn't have a way to get Claressa on any of the networks that were in business at that time. So we did our own pay-per-view for Claressa and Flint, which did great.
Yeah.
And all women's pay-per-view. And then she did her stuff with PFL. So it opened her up to a bigger fan base. And I think it'll just tell her story bigger and wider. And it's good for her.
When you see her on the prelims of a PFL card, so we're not talking UFC, we're talking the number 2, and there's a struggle there. She lost one fight. She's on the. Do you think it diminishes her star power? Because she's so dominant in boxing, it's like, to a degree, seeing Michael Jordan play baseball.
Exactly. So I was just going to say, so the fact that Michael Jordan is not a superstar baseball player, does it make him any less of a basketball player?
At the time, if you recall, we're around the same age, right? You're 42?
Yes.
Right, I'm 41, so in the summer I'm 42. So you're born in 82. He did take a lot of hits. Like, he was a punching bag for that moment, because it was the first time people could really like poke at him, right? Do you remember when he was striking out and all this stuff? And so I'm just wondering, as her promoter in boxing, where she's so good and dominant, is there a part of you that's like, I'd wish you didn't do this because it maybe I don't know if this is true, diminishes your aura because you're on the ground struggling.
I just hope that she doesn't get injured.
Okay.
But as an athlete, it made her a better fighter. She became more stronger and more athletic in certain ways. She trains year round, which is great because she always has something coming up. She fought in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Her last fight, PFL fight. I believe for Claressa, it'll be very significant and powerful to fight in the Middle East as a boxer.
Yeah.
And to fight in Africa. I think that excluding the opponent because of who she is and because of what she represents, I believe that they'll be so powerful for the world, and can tell the Claressa story, kind of like Muhammad Ali. She is like Muhammad Ali in many ways for women in the United States.
Every time I go on Twitter, I feel like I'm subjected to like 10 tweets between her and Alicia Baumgardner. Back, forth, back, forth, back, forth.
Yeah, but
this fight that you're talking about, is it possible? It can't be, right? There's too big of a gap.
well, so let me talk about it.
Okay, please. Because that would be a gigantic deal in
it would be a
in
gigantic
Michigan.
deal.
Right.
Yeah. So Alicia, she had this fight. She had failed the drug test. Whatever. Time went by, and Claressa and Alicia and myself and Alicia are friends for years. She would come to the shows. Always showed her respect. Helped her with PR, whatever. Trained in the same gyms, and then all of a sudden, she started to take these swipes at Claressa. I think it was on Shaquille O'Neal's podcast.
Was it? Okay, I don't know.
Possibly. And it's like, huh? And once, twice, I usually stay out of this stuff until, and then I call her managers and promoter or whatever, and there was no interest in it. So I said, well, then why? What are we talking about?
Okay.
And then it stopped, and then erupted again. So, so we're ready to send her the contract.
What weight would it be at?
It would have to be. Well, Claressa said that she would make 154 for that fight.
Okay.
And
that's like almost 30 pounds more than what Baumgardner fights at.
Yeah, I think she fights at 130. So let me tell you. So this is. Claressa had nothing to do with this. This is Alicia all by herself talking about it, and I think it may have never been realistic. It's just it's like Canelo saying, "I'm gonna fight Tyson Fury,"
right?
But we will fight at 185 pounds. It's impossible.
Right.
So maybe it'll make the news for a couple of days, but it's just clickbait. And
so that's not the fight you're talking about.
I don't think so.
Okay, that would be. I mean. They have two incredible personalities and fan bases, and it's like a true Michigan turf war. Right. I just think the gap is too big there.
The gap is, according to her representatives.
When you reach out to them, do they even entertain it? Like, do they say, okay, like what if...
No, I have a good relationship with them on other matters, so it's not contentious. But it is truthful. Like, what are you doing, man?
Right.
I mean, and some of the stuff is good fun. Some of the stuff is not good fun, in my opinion.
Right.
I don't think that from their point of view it was ever real. It's just Alicia just trying to get clickbait and some interest and making herself relevant. And I guess she did do that in a way. But she has a mandatory due, so she got to. Yeah, is she cleared? By the way?
That's a good question. I guess we'll find out soon.
Yes.
By the way, speaking of the mandatory, isn't it so crazy that we are celebrating undisputed heavyweight champion? It's so good for the sport, and then in 2 weeks he's going to be stripped of it. Like, what's the point of this? These are the problems, right? Isn't this what turns people off?
I don't know if it turns people off. Because
it's a celebration, and then I'm trying to explain to my audience who's more of an MMA, and they're like, wait, so all that talk of undisputed, and then literally in 2 weeks, Dubois and Hrgovic are going to fight for the IBF?
Well, but each organization has their mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
Just because someone is great doesn't mean... So there's a system, and I think that because each organization has their own system, it's many times clashes with what the network is trying to do, clashes with what the organization is trying to do. But I do think that it's important that rules are abided by, and that the mandatories fight for the title eventually. No. I don't know if it takes meaning that he's no longer the undisputed champion. He's the linear champion.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's nice when it's all unified. Isn't that better?
It is nice when it's all unified, but I don't know if it's all better because it adds to the excitement of the sport when one champion fights another champion.
Sure. And but we just had it, and then it's being taken away.
and we enjoyed a great moment.
It was good. It was good.
And hopefully we'll have a rematch, and
Yes.
the rematch could be with no titles on the line, or with all the titles on the line. But it's going to be great. However, whoever is the winner of the Hrgovic, the Bois fight, to see him fight the winner of Fury Usyk, or fight Anthony Joshua, or if Anthony Joshua fights him and wins the title, that adds to the spice of Tyson Fury Usyk fighting the winner of Joshua versus the winner of this fight again.
Right.
So well, definitely work needs to be done.
This is the charm of boxing.
The charm of boxing, yes.
You grew up as a young boy in Ukraine before moving
Yes.
to Brooklyn. Correct me if I'm wrong. You were introduced to boxing via Mike Tyson, like so many kids of my generation, right? You saw him, and
Yes.
that was like,
And via the kids that were trying to pick on me in school.
sure. You thought, okay, if I'm ferocious like this, did that happen a lot? By the way, did you get picked on a lot?
So first of all, I watched the Mike Tyson fight sometime in the Soviet Union. I don't remember against who, but I remember, and it was very big and inspiring. And then the Rocky movies, obviously. I was not the strongest kid and used to get picked on in school back in the Odessa, Ukraine. My parents enrolled me in a karate club, and then when we came here, initially they didn't have enough money for me to enroll in a karate club. I did some karate and then gravitated towards boxing.
Okay. And when you're watching Mike, and then you're coming over to the States and you're doing this, do you feel like it's changing who you are as a person? Is your confidence changing? Like, when do you start to think that, okay, this is just a nice thing to pass the time. This is a nice thing for me to be, a little more confident. And, oh, wow, I am actually good enough to where I can become a pro, or, go through the amateur ranks and then a pro. Like, how do you go from the kid who's getting picked on to that?
So I started boxing at the age of 13 in Star City Boxing Club. It was the concrete jungle, no air conditioning in the summertime, and it's when I joined in the summer, very hot, in a basement, no stairs, just like a slope.
Wow.
No windows, just a door, no running water. Tough place that produced some of the best fighters that are still in the sport today. So I was an immigrant. My family was on welfare and food stamps, go through that grind. And I saw boxing as my way out of the ghetto, you know what I mean? As my way out of my situation. I trained from the first day. Very early in my career, I trained to be the best and to be a world champion. And I had a great amateur career. I won the Silver Gloves, Junior Olympics, won a national tournament, then won the Golden Gloves, got the Sugar Robinson Award as the outstanding boxer when during the year that many guys went on to become world champions. And then I turned pro with Top Rank. But
and part of what appealed you to so many people was the fact that you were an Orthodox Jew and that you wouldn't fight during Shabbat, right?
So it's my family immigrated from the Soviet Union, traditional Soviet family, and one of the reasons why we came here is because Judaism and Jews were treated as second-class citizens, and there was a significant level of anti-Semitism. And when we came here, it was the first time in my life that I saw Jewish people walking around with hats and different garbs, and and I wanted to know what it was. Slowly, I learned, and I got introduced to an organization called Chabad Lubavitch when I was 14 years old, and very slowly started to progress in my Judaism. At the age of 18, the next step was not to box on Shabbos. I was still an amateur, and I received kind of guidance from my rabbi to not do it. It was a difficult decision, and I decided to take it upon myself. And I went to this U.S. Championship tournament, and I told USA Boxing, so these national tournaments, you fight Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, process of elimination, you lose, you leave. So I told them on Sunday, if I make it to the finals, I'm not going to box because I'm an observant Jew. They said, well, if you don't box, you're going to get disqualified. I said, okay, I have so many talented boxers,
right?
Let me get there. So I kept winning. Then in the semifinals, I beat a guy whose name was Keith Mason, who was an amateur boxing world champion, national champion, one of the favorites to win the tournament. And I upset him, I beat him. And I got interviewed by a guy whose name is Dylan Hernandez, who was a local reporter for the Sun Herald in Gulfport, Mississippi. He's now the head sports, whatever, at the LA Times. He said, Dmitry, what a great upset. What can we expect from you in the finals? I said, Dylan, I won't fight in the finals because at 2 o'clock On Saturday, I observed the Sabbath. USA Boxing told me I want to be disqualified. So Dylan said, let me see what I could do. And he spoke with USA Boxing, and they changed my time. And I fought Ray Sanchez, who was a multi-time national champion, big puncher, and who was managed actually by Cameron Duncan when he turned pro. Anyway, and I beat him in the finals.
Wow.
That was the
When did they do it? Saturday night or Sunday?
They did it Saturday night after the
After,
Super
yeah.
Heavyweights.
But you stuck with that throughout your career, and that's a big part of the
Yes.
documentary. Do you feel like you ever lost out on any big opportunities because you wouldn't fight during the Sabbath?
No, I feel that I believe in a higher power. I believe in God, and I believe that everything turned out as it should have turned out. And I grew up in Stereo City Boxing Club. One of the people that took me under his wing and kind of adopted me in a way was Jimmy O'Farrell, who was an older African-American gentleman. He passed away some years ago. And, a lot of the education of America I got through his eyes and through his experiences. And, so as a kid growing up, I felt that if I get to be a famous boxer, I'm going to represent who I am proudly and not be shy about it, and not be, because, certainly in the Soviet Union, Jewish people, would change their names or, try to avoid for people to know that they were Jews because they would get harassed. And unfortunately, a lot of it is going on in some ways here today, which I've never experienced before. Anyway, so I knew that I wanted to be open about who I was and learn about myself, and God bless America, and I'm very grateful that in the United States I was able to be successful in boxing and reach the highest level and still observe Shabbos and talk about it and openly wear a kippah, and and people are not telling me, get out or use the other door.
Right. Early in your career, though, correct me if I'm wrong, you used to wear a hat, right?
Yes. So sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, like, when you decided that you felt comfortable enough to take off the hat and just wear that.
So I stopped boxing on Shabbos, but my level of observance and my education was not, and my knowledge of Judaism and my observance in other ways was not in sync. So I still didn't fully eat kosher food, and I still didn't do some things, but I observed the Sabbath, and slowly things started to catch on. Then as time went on and I started to grow older and realize certain things, I felt more comfortable, and this is how we do, baby.
And now, as far as promoting
Only in
shows,
America.
yes, amen. Do you promote shows on the Sabbath, or will you?
Yes.
You do.
So
You just won't be there.
Yes. So we've had a lot of showbox events, which were on Friday night.
Right.
And which were on Friday, and which Claressa fought on. She's like, Dmitry. She's like, all the promoters are always in the ring, taking pictures. She's like, you're behind the scenes, man.
You're like Al Heyman in that.
Yeah. So the events that are on Shabbos, I don't go to. But thank God we have a great staff. And from a Jewish point of view, there's a way to be able to do it in a way that's in accordance with the law, and that things are done, in that way. Yeah.
How do you feel?
Go ahead.
Just curious, how do you feel at almost 58 about the fact that Mike Tyson is fighting again?
So Jake Paul is trained by another Detroit guy. He's known as Third. His name is Trayvon Chambers, who I know for many years, who's helped train many of the fighters that I promote. How do I feel about it? I feel that Mike Tyson, after all he's accomplished, deserves a victory run. I don't know. Well, hopefully, if the fight was announced, means that he's healthy and that he's okay. And I think that if he tries, he power is the last thing to go, man. So I think that if he lands one good one on Jake Paul, based on this fight with Roy Jones Jr., he's good.
Okay, so you're not uncomfortable. Some fighters have said they're uncomfortable, that he shouldn't be in there, that he could get hurt. You don't feel the same? Generally
speaking, I'm uncomfortable with people boxing probably past 45 in real professional fights. What Jake Paul is doing in many ways is great for the sport of boxing. in my opinion. And this is not like a real professional fight in some ways. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not like Jake Paul won the national Golden Gloves
Sure.
and had 300
But he's
amateur
getting
fights.
punched in the head. You know, I
He
know
is
it's
getting-
2-minute
he-
rounds,
He is getting punched in the head.
14-ounce gloves.
Yeah, so that's a decision for the commission and for the doctors to make.
Yeah.
If he's safe enough and healthy enough and can run and pass certain tests and is deemed healthy enough to get into the ring, then it is what it is.
So, I mean,
that I don't have any criticism of it.
Yeah, sure.
As a fan.
Sure. And
As a fan, I'm grateful that Netflix is showing these fights and Serrano and Taylor fighting.
it's a pretty good card that they're putting together slowly but surely, right? They have Kid Austin on there against H2O Silv. There's an MMA guy going up Darren Till against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I mean, this could be the most watched event ever, right? 270 million subscribers worldwide. Mike Tyson against Jake Paul. As long as I sort of feel the same as I do about last Saturday's fight in this sense. Obviously, it's totally different, but like I'm so happy that there was no controversy on Saturday, that there was no, oh, look at boxing, oh, the judges, oh, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It was just like you shut it off on Saturday and it was like, that was great.
Right.
That was the best that this sport can offer and has to offer, and everyone goes home happy.
Yeah, you know, and I also
That's what I want on the 20th of July.
Yeah, and I feel like there'll be a lot of promotion leading up to the event, which
Yeah.
will show some of Tyson's earlier fights and tell the story of Cus D'Amato and Kevin Rooney.
Hopefully, yeah.
And his whole, you know, and that'll inspire people. And hopefully, and I believe they will, Netflix has a great way of telling stories. So, and storytelling is what's so important to pull the boxing fans back into the sport of boxing. And it's something that we do on our series. If you go on my Instagram page and our company Instagram page this week, but all throughout the promotion, we do storytelling, and we tell the stories of what makes the fighters box and why they do what they do, and that makes fans want to watch the sport of boxing. And I believe that's so important.
I like the poster. It's a little old school feel to it, right?
Yes. So, go ahead.
No, because there's a backstory to that, right?
Yes.
Tell us.
So, so HBO and Showtime, you know, are the best.
May they rest in peace.
Yes, exactly. So Glenn Perry, who's created artwork for Sex and the City, Sopranos, Bill Maher, Larry David, many others, and most of the championship fights for HBO we've connected, and
he's doing your stuff.
He's doing my stuff, and I'm very grateful for it. And I've gotten a lot of that from many different random people.
Yeah.
Saying, "Oh my God, this is such a great poster. So old school, so cool." So
I love that stuff. That stuff's important.
It is important.
Why should this audience watch on Thursday? Give us the promoter hard sell.
Sure. So this is the rebirth of big time boxing in the city of Detroit. In the main event, world-rated Jermaine Franklin fighting Devin Vargas. But beyond that, I want to say, very important for young fighters, there's a whole system of talent in the world of boxing that doesn't fight on championship events, that is climbing up to the ranks. And there was Showbox, and there is no more Showbox. So Big Time Boxing USA, the goal of it is to be the premier talent development platform in the United States. We do great production. We have great folks telling the story of boxing, Al Bernstein, Raul Marquez, Corey Erdman, and we have great young fighters in the ring from the United States and from around the world. So in the main event, Jermaine Franklin. In the co-main event, Joshua Pagan fighting the most competitive fight of his career, 9-0 versus 13-0. Then we have Deval Smith, the next Tommy Hearns, so they say, and Ali Akhmedov, top-rated super middleweight, promoted by Tom Loeffler and Gennady Golovkin. Just another example of us working together. If you look at my events, to whatever extent I can, I work with everybody. I made a deal with Claressa to fight Savannah Marshall, which was on a Boxer show, all the way on to fight Tyson Fury, which was with Arum. We had Ergashev fight Sabir Matias, which was with Heyman. I mean, and the list goes on. And it's very important, and I say this because, you know, I don't yet have a chance to voice myself, but it's very important. Two very important things to me are for people in the boxing industry to work together and to tell the stories of young boxers so that the fans and the boxers can establish a relationship through as early as possible in their careers and kind of connect on that level.
I love it. Good luck on Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for
So
having me.
nice. And we need to have Orthodox Stance on DAZN or some kind of other platform because
I love
people
it.
need to see that. So I'm going to work on that on my end
Thank you.
for whatever that's worth. Check it out on Thursday on DAZN. What time does it start?
Starts at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
There you go. And keep up the great work. And we need more promoters like you who are willing to work with everyone. I think that's
Thank you.
only good for the sport. We'll
Only
take
in America, baby.
That's right. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel. So please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.